Hi, in this video we're going to explore the difference between the tenant, the head of the household, their events and Vastu events of the house. The point of the video is the lack of association is almost cruel. The house doesn't seem to bother about what happens to the head of the household, but does impose restrictions because of Vastu. As we saw in the bachelor house, we saw some pressure on the head of household that the house Vastu imposed. And we are going to see something similar here. I'm going to show you a different sequence. February of 2000, we had an extension put in for the house. Behind the house, we created a solarium. And that solarium, when it got created, you notice how the extension for the house is showing up like a remedy. It's showing up like a remedy to the house, where we had to take out a door which was pretty nasty, and there was some water damage below the door. So we removed that, and then in that place we put up a deck, and on top of it we created this solarium. It was 120 square feet. That was an extension. Like a sportscaster, I'm going to show you the events. If you notice, this is how it peaks, right? You got the number 287 something for the house. The house believes that this is something really good that has happened to the house. Now I go back, look at the same timeline for the head of household, right? And you notice there isn't much. So the timelines for Vastu are some permanent changes, right? I mean, whatever shows in Vastu are permanent changes in the house. And that those things don't readily show in the timeline for the head of household or people living in the house. Whereas if there is a blip in the life of the head of household, which probably is also rectified immediately, it does not show in the house. So the house timeline is entirely different. I mean, if you look at the entry date of the house, that is very different from the entry date of the head of household. Entry date for the head of household is when the person was born, and that has different events, and this is only one of the houses where the person lives. Similarly, this is only one of the tenants of the house, so the house doesn't bother. But you must be very careful about choosing a house and the entry date, because entry date into a house can impose inordinate problems. Similarly, the coordinates of the house with respect to north, east, west, south, right? Those things as well will create, the position of the bedrooms, the position of other things in the house will impose restrictions on the tenant during the tenure in that house, right? So this video is to show that the house has its own set of impositions on the person, and the head of household events are not directly related to the house. The house doesn't feel for the people in the home. I mean, you expect that the house has a bond, like the tenant has a bond with the house, the heart that makes it the home. We make bonds with our memories in the house. But in reality, the house is entirely different. I mean, it's got multiple tenants it's got to cater to, and during a time, it co-lives with the person, and its events are entirely different from the events of the tenant. So one has to be really worried about entry date and position of the house, which imposes on the head of household and not otherwise. a person need not show any improvement to his or her life. Whereas if there is an improvement with the garden or the extension to the house and so on, that shows up in the house. And those are good times when things can happen to the house, which the head of household may enjoy, may not enjoy. Thanks for listening.